Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 is clearly one of the best Call of Duty games of all time. It had a mix of one of the best single-player campaigns, an amazing multiplayer that had really unique maps that really stand the test of time, still look great today, and were really well made and enjoyable to play. But did you know that there was probably a lot more maps that were originally going to be in Modern Warfare 2 that didn't make the final cut of the game? And some of these maps are actually still playable today. If you haven't heard of these maps, don't worry, we're going to cover them all in this video. But before we start, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification button so you get notified every time we upload a video, because YouTube's subscription button just doesn't like to work. But yeah, there was about 12 or 13 maps that were originally in the game's code, in the game that was released but blocked away, that were supposed to be in Modern Warfare 2. Some of these maps got repurposed and put into DLC, which we saw with the map Trailer and Fuel. However, some of the other maps never saw the light of day, even though some of them are playable if you play on the PC. So for a few of these, we can actually show them off, and for the other ones, we can kind of assume what part of the campaign they were going to be drawn from, and some of them we just really have no idea. The first one that we want to talk about is Vertigo, which was a planned multiplayer map that was scrapped for some reason. The thumbnail made it into the game, so if you had a JTAG'd Xbox back in 2010, you can pull up the screen to show it off, but you actually can't get the game to load because it was blocked off or restricted. But for looking from the thumbnail, it looks like a mix of high-rise, but it also looks like the building has some heavy damage, almost like something out of the beginning of Modern Warfare 3. It probably got scrapped for being too similar with high-rise, because there are two maps that take place above a city in buildings, and it kind of would be redundant a little bit considering how diverse the maps were in Modern Warfare 2. However, I do have a theory that this map was kind of brought back and repurposed in Call of Duty Ghosts in the form of Freefall, just because it has the mix of being on top of a building and being really damaged, and Vertigo kind of gives you it means dizziness, so it gives us the idea that there was probably something to do with heights and dropping, and Freefall literally is a Call of Duty map that is a building collapsing while you're fighting for whatever reason. Another map that was supposed to be included was called Gulag, which was definitely taken from the single player mission called the Gulag, and it was supposed to be somewhere inside of that structure. Most likely it was outside. There's been a fan recreation that has surfaced online that you can actually play of the multiplayer map that was taken from the single player game. We don't know if this is exactly what the multiplayer would have looked like, but the quote-unquote fan recreation that you're watching on your screen right now probably would make the most sense, because it was just taken from the single player game, and this is kind of the most open area in the single player campaign mission. So if they were to take a multiplayer section and square it off like they did a lot of the time back in those days on Call of Duty, it would make sense that this would be the area. So this is probably what the multiplayer map would have looked like. It would have been a really great map to have because it's really unique here, and it's a real shame that this map was cut out of the game. This next one's really interesting, but we have no footage whatsoever, so here's footage from the LA level aftermath from Black Ops 2. But downtown LA was supposed to be a multiplayer map that was cut out of the game because it was supposed to be a single player mission that we never saw. It's probably because the single player story took place mostly on the East Coast, and they probably couldn't get the campaign to logically make sense to take place on the West Coast without introducing a new plot line that probably wasn't relevant to the main story. But it would have been really cool to see downtown LA with the Modern Warfare 2 art style and more of a modern feel. We did get to see parts of California in Call of Duty Ghosts single player, which is pretty cool, but it would have been cool to see it in the Modern Warfare 2 style, and it's a real shame that this map and level didn't make it into the game because it probably would have been a really cool art design. And while we're talking about single player missions that were cut, there also was a single player mission called Tulsa. We have no information on that other than there was a file in the game left behind called Tulsa.vision. probably took place in Tulsa, Oklahoma, but for some reason they cut that one out of the game as well. We also know that there was supposed to be a motorcycle level in this game somewhere called Roadkill for the single player campaign. If you bought the hardened edition of Modern Warfare 2, there was a little book that came in it, and they show you the concept art for it that was originally supposed to be included. It did get cut out of the game, but we did see motorcycle levels introduced later on in the Call of Duty franchise, like in Call of Duty Black Ops. And finally, there was also a level called International Space Station that was supposed to be in Modern Warfare 2, where you fight your way through the space station. It was kind of an abstract idea that probably wouldn't fit in the Modern Warfare 2 story. They did include the cutscene that takes place from the International Space Station in the level Second Son, so it's kind of interactive like that. And then in Call of Duty Ghosts, we actually did get to fight through a space station in one of those levels, so at least you had that. It's pretty clear that this idea was definitely put into Call of Duty Ghosts, because they're able to do everything that they couldn't do in Modern Warfare 2. There are two more unused maps called Riverwalk and Suburbia. We really don't know any detail on these maps, as there's nothing other than the file names existing out there. Most likely they were going to be taken from the campaign level that takes place right before you get to the White House and have to fight through that, where you're going through the suburbs. That would make sense. Both of those levels are kind of related to that, and it would have been really interesting to see that as a multiplayer level, but since they were also included in the special operations, it could have been kind of redundant to have them so many times in the game. But more maps would have been cool too, even though Modern Warfare 2 had a really large list of maps that was appreciated. There was also going to be a map called Vertigo. We don't know anything about it at all though, so with a name like Vertigo, if you have a theory on what Vertigo could have been, let us know, but we don't know. There was another map called Substation. We don't know any details of that. It could have been an early version of Subbase, or maybe it was cut out because it was too similar to Subbase, but that one also was cut from the game. And then we also had a map called Uprise, which we don't know much about either. It shares similar names to High Rise, and there's also a Black Ops 2 DLC called Uprising. It's probably not too related, but one thing that sets this map apart though from all the other ones is that when Modern Warfare 2 was still in the end stages of development, October 3rd, 2009, just about a month before its release, if you looked at some Infinity Ward developers on the Xbox 360, it would show what game they're playing and what map. It said they were playing Modern Warfare 2 on the map Uprise, so they were playing on this map prior to its release, and it got cut somewhere in the last month. We don't know if maybe it was just a different name for High Rise and they didn't want to use official names, but we know that they were playing on it back in 2009. And then there was another huge map, except it was actually a really small map, called Oilrig that was cut, and this one got cut so late into the development cycle that it was accessible through modding the game. It's definitely taken from the campaign level, The Only Easy Day Was Yesterday, where you kind of fight through the oil rig, but it's an extremely small map. It's smaller than Shipment, it's smaller than Nuketown, it's smaller than Rust. Definitely a map that's built probably for one-on-one only games, and maybe that's why they cut it, because they don't want to necessarily promote boosting as much or whatever it was. This map was extremely small. There were a lot of corridors, fortunately, so the game and the map still work well, but I think that they were more aiming for larger scale games, and it would only work well in a smaller private game setting, and for whatever reason they decided to cut this map, even though it does look really well. And there was this one room that had a bunch of explosives in it that scared me, but fortunately they don't blow up, even though I thought they did. But this map would have been really cool, and it is playable on PC. You just have to get a mod like IW4X to play it and find a server that's hosting it or get your friends in on it, but it is a really cool looking map. And with that, we also know that the Modern Warfare 2 engine, after the release of Modern Warfare 2, this is like the next 2 years or so after Modern Warfare 2 came out, Activision used the Modern Warfare 2 engine as like a hybrid server engine for a Call of Duty Online that released exclusively in China. It was a Call of Duty multiplayer and campaign experience that reused assets from both Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, Call of Duty 4, and Black Ops, and kind of packaged it to reach the market in China. But at its core, It was Modern Warfare 2. It was just a modded version of Modern Warfare 2 that was officially released. If you download IW4X, which is a mod that I strongly recommend if you're a avid Modern Warfare 2 fan, it includes a bunch of new maps, new weapons, and just kind of a refined server browser system instead of the matchmaking that you get in regular Modern Warfare 2. It's a separate client altogether, so you can't get like a VAC ban on Steam or anything like that. But definitely check it out, because a lot of the maps that were made for this China audience were actually ported back into Modern Warfare 2 by the developers of IW4X, and we can look at some of these Modern Warfare 2 maps and play on them even though they're different. So I guess these are kind of deleted maps. They're Modern Warfare 2 maps that aren't in Modern Warfare 2, so we're counting them in this video too. The first one I want to look at is Chemical Plant. I did a quick little run through recording this, but it's pretty much the map Storm. It is the map Storm, except they removed the rain, which kind of makes it a little harder to see enemies, and they made it a snow covered map, which is really cool for visibility. It's a shame that we didn't get this version in the actual game, or at least a variation where we could switch between. There's a couple other ones on here that were interesting. We had Estate Tropical. It's the map Estate, except it has a tropical setting, which is kind of cool. It changes the way the estate actually looks, but the one thing that this does is it definitely clears up a lot of the foliage and makes it a lot easier to see and have better sight lines between the map, which kind of balances it out a little bit better, which is really nice. There's a variation of Favela called Favela Tropical, and it looks almost identical to regular Favela. I did a run through on both of them to compare the two, and they're pretty much the same, just Favela Tropical seems to maybe be taking place at a different time of the day, and the skyboxes are slightly different. There's also Crash and Crash Tropical. I didn't record footage of it, but it's just Crash Tropical has more grass on the ground, and it's a little bit more green. Freighter was a really cool map that was put into Call of Duty Online. It's the map Wet Work, which is also included in IW4X if you download it. Or a lot of people didn't like Wet Work because it was a night map, and you could use night vision if you wanted to, but Freighter's a snow version that takes place in the day, so it has the same feel of the map, but much better vision, which is pretty cool. There's a different version of Rust, which is longer, so it becomes kind of closer to the size of Scrapyard instead of the tight corners of Rust, which is cool if you like Rust, but you just want to maybe play with more people and not be spawn killed savagely. Who am I kidding? Everyone plays Rust for the chaos. And both Shipment and a new variation of Shipment, Shipment Long, which is a larger version of Shipment, which is kind of cool to see, and it works really well. It's once again about the size of Scrapyard, but it's the environment and the core map of Shipyard in the middle of it. And then there's the map Village. It is a new map, I guess. It's taken out of the Call of Duty 4 campaign and made into daytime. It's a little bit of a closer quarters map, but it feels a lot like maybe one of the earlier Call of Duty multiplayer maps from back in the day. It feels very much like a Call of Duty 1 or 2 multiplayer map, but it's nice, it's small, tight quarters, and it's fun to play on. And then there's Kill House from Call of Duty 4, Nuketown from Call of Duty Black Ops, and Firing Range from Call of Duty Black Ops that were all put into Call of Duty Online, and they were ported into IW4X. I think some of these might be a mix of fan-made, but they were in Call of Duty Online, and they were using the Modern Warfare 2 engine. So it's kind of cool to get to see these maps and get to play on them in Modern Warfare 2, because they're not from the base game, and it's really interesting to get to see those types of maps. Oh, and I almost forgot Block, which is called Forgotten City in the Call of Duty Online for China. I don't know why they renamed it. It doesn't make much sense, but Forgotten City now in Modern Warfare 2, which you can also get. So if you guys are curious about those maps, you can download IW4X. It's free. It's really fun, actually. There's a good community over there. You can check out our Discord if you want people to play with on IW4X. We've done a couple Modern Warfare 2 videos, and we kind of have a little community of people who really like the older Call of Duties. So hop on our Discord, make some friends, and play some old Modern Warfare 2 again. It's pretty cool. And while I'm really sad that we didn't get a chance to see all of the maps that were unused and scrapped, and some of them like Vertigo and Riverwalk, and especially I'm really curious about Uprise and Verdict. We won't ever get to see them or know what they were about. It is really cool that some of the maps like Oilrig we do get to play on and we can check out. Well, anyways, that's the end of the video. If you liked this video, please hit the like button down below. Leave a comment on what map you really wish you got to see more than any of the other maps. Don't forget to hit the bell button next to the subscribe button so you actually get notified whenever we upload. Check out our Discord, and we'll see you all next time with a brand new video. Bye guys.